The air within Salvatore's, a venue synonymous with Chicago's most powerful elite, wasn't just exclusive. It was thick with a palpable, almost suffocating opulence. Crystal light fixtures refracted dazzling, restless specks across the polished marble, creating a beautiful, yet deceptive veneer. Alara Vance smoothed the pristine lines of her serving attire for the fourth time that evening. Her slight tremor wasn't due to the high-stakes environment. She was used to serving titans of industry and shadowy power brokers. Her anxiety stemmed from the constant, exhausting effort of concealing the turbulent truth of her heritage. At 21, Alara had become a master of blending into the background. She navigated the crowded floor like a phantom, her practiced, almost mechanical smile a barrier against scrutiny. 6 months at Salvatore's had provided the crucial financial lifeline she needed for her demanding university courses. A double major in geopolitical studies and applied linguistics. "Table 9 is running low on their vintage," barked Heather, the lead hostess, without lifting her gaze from the dense seating chart. "And whatever you do, avoid irritating Mr. Domenico Corsetti tonight. He's already expressed his displeasure with the lighting." Ilara gave a subtle nod, retrieving a bottle of Bordeaux with a price tag that dwarfed her monthly salary. Domenico Corsetti. The very name carried the sharp, unforgiving edge of high-stakes influence. She'd attended his table for 2 months and was, to him, nothing more than a functional piece of the establishment's elaborate decor. The dining room buzzed with the low, confident drone of individuals who viewed financial stress as a foreign concept, who never had to weigh textbook costs against the grocery bill. Ilara knew the weight of that other world all too well. It was the life she had resolutely abandoned when she fled her East Coast origins. "Excuse me, young woman." The voice cut through the ambient sound, precise, authoritative, carrying an undercurrent of impatience that instantly put Ilara on alert. She pivoted to discover Domenico Corsetti standing unexpectedly close. His dark, piercing eyes locked onto hers with an unsettling focus that caused an entirely unprofessional flutter in her chest. He was imposing. She had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. His deep black hair, impeccably cut, suggested a stylist who commanded more for a single session than Ilara earned in a week. The suit was flawlessly tailored, a masterpiece of Italian design, conveying an irrefutable expense that on anyone else might seem pretentious. "Your refill, signore," Ilara murmured, holding the bottle aloft. She tried, unsuccessfully, to ignore how the overhead illumination highlighted the determined line of his jaw and the subtle hint of 5 o'clock shadow, a silent testament to a schedule too demanding for mundane grooming. "It's not for me." Domenico gestured subtly towards the refined, silver-haired woman seated at a neighboring banquette. "My mother has been attempting to get your attention for a few minutes now." Rising action. The slip. Ilara's focus shifted to the elder woman, and her heart softened. Signora Elena Corsetti, likely in her early 60s, had her luminous silver hair swept back in a traditional, elegant knot. Her eyes, kind and expressive, seemed to harbor countless untold narratives. She was making subtle, rapid hand movements, her face alight with an expectant smile. Without a moment of conscious thought, Ilara placed the priceless wine on a nearby station and approached Signora Corsetti. "Good evening," she communicated through swift, practiced signs. "How may I assist you?" The Signora's expression transformed into pure delight, her hands flowing as she replied. "Ah, what a remarkable surprise. I was hoping to send my highest compliments to the culinary director for the saffron risotto. It has a distinctive richness, utterly reminiscent of my own Nana's recipe back in Naples, decades ago." "I will ensure your profound appreciation is delivered," Ilara signed back, a genuine smile finally reaching her eyes. "Would you be interested in any details regarding the preparation? I believe he incorporates a very particular grade of Sicilian saffron." Behind her, the restaurant's background noise seemed to subside, but Ilara was wholly focused on Signora Corsetti's animated account of her Neapolitan upbringing and the profound isolation she felt from a world that rarely slowed down to truly engage with the deaf community. "You possess a rare thoughtfulness," the older woman signed. "Most simply offer a meaningless nod and smile upon realizing my deafness. Your signing, though, it is beautifully fluent." Where did you acquire such skill? I was raised alongside a cousin who is deaf. Ilara responded instinctively, and then froze, the blood draining from her face as the profound realization of her massive error dawned on her. She had tirelessly guarded every facet of her past, constructing a meticulous, anonymous identity far removed from the complicated dynamics of her family back in the greater Boston area. A deaf cousin? Domenico's voice cut the silence, sharp and sudden. He was observing her with an unreadable, intense expression. You are certainly full of surprises, aren't you? Ilara felt a familiar, chilling wave of terror. After such painstaking caution, one spontaneous act of human connection had demolished her entire careful construct. It was just something I picked up casually as a child, sir. It's entirely insignificant. Insignificant? Domenico stepped closer, his voice dropping to a low, intimate timbre that was far more menacing than any shout. You speak a complex form of sign language fluently. What other crucial details are you strategically omitting, Ilara Vance? The question hung between them, a dangerous challenge. Ilara could feel the eyes of the remaining diners and the nervous energy of her manager. I truly must return to my duties, Ilara whispered, reaching for the forgotten wine bottle. Inciting incident, the reckoning. Her hand was visibly shaking. Wait! Domenico's hand clamped down on her wrist, not aggressively, but with an absolute firmness that stopped her movement cold. The unexpected physical contact sent a jolt, an undeniable spark through her entire system, and she saw a brief flicker in his eyes that suggested he felt the exact same unwelcome electricity. My apologies, he said, his tone softening abruptly. That was unnecessarily aggressive. My mother rarely finds someone she connects with so immediately. Your simple kindness means more than you can imagine. Ilara's first instinct was to yank her arm away, but something in Domenico's fleeting vulnerability, a chink in the polished armor, held her in place. Your mother is gracious, she said softly, meeting his gaze. She was sharing memories of her life in Naples. 3 days later, Ilara found the encounter impossible to dismiss. She had fully expected to be dismissed for causing such a scene, but instead, the hostess had given her an envelope containing a substantial cash gratuity and a brief, elegant note. Thank you for truly seeing my mother. D.C. The midweek crowd at Salvatore's was lighter, giving Ilara a rare moment to breathe. As she topped up water glasses, she felt the unmistakable, spine-tingling sensation of being watched. Domenico sat alone at his usual prominent table. Tonight, he was without his typical companions, the serious, whispering men in identical power suits. He was isolated, appearing almost as if he were patiently observing the unfolding of an inevitable event. Mr. Corsetti requires a word with you immediately, the floor manager hissed as he passed, his voice emphasizing the urgency and lack of choice. And Ilara, be cautious. That family's memory is notoriously long. Notebook clutched like a useless shield, Ilara approached the table. Good evening, Mr. Corsetti. How may I be of service? She was proud of the unshakable quality of her voice. Sit down, Ilara, Domenico instructed, gesturing to the unoccupied seat across from him. His polite tone was an iron constraint. I believe we need a detailed discussion about your true identity. The entire restaurant seemed to dissolve as Ilara slowly sank into the chair, the foundation of her entire life beginning to splinter. I don't understand your meaning, she managed, the lie tasting like ash. Your pronunciation wavers periodically, Domenico observed, deliberately swirling the blood-red wine in his glass. It hints strongly at Boston. Furthermore, you exhibit an involuntary physical reaction when specific names are mentioned. Names such as O'Malley or Flanagan, prominent Irish families linked to my competition. A wave of paralyzing dread washed over Ilara. How had he noticed details she herself barely controlled? She had altered her hair color, assumed a new name, even deliberately adjusted her posture. I am merely a student working to pay for college, she stated, her voice tight. A waitress who is fluent in a very specialized Italian sign language dialect. A dialect so uncommon it's virtually exclusive to interpreters with family ties to Sicily, Domenico countered, leaning forward, his voice a dangerous, intimate low tone. A waitress who tenses up every time my associate, Mr. Bianchi, enters the room. As if you recognize him. As if you possess a deep-seated fear of him. You have been deliberately monitoring me, Alara accused, an unexpected surge of defiant courage born from sheer terror replacing her panic. The shock should have been devastating, but instead she felt an odd, strange relief, the crushing burden of maintaining her fabricated life finally giving way. I monitor everyone, Domenico replied with a minimal, non-committal shrug. It's a necessary component of survival in my position. But you, Alara Vance, or should I utilize your proper name? You are an anomaly. A profound chill settled over her as the gravity of her poor judgment became clear. She had specifically chosen this locale because it was miles from any Irish syndicate territory, never conceiving she would become an employee to one of the most influential figures in the Italian power structure. My mother believes you are a truly good person, Domenico continued, the unexpected softness in his voice surprising Alara. She hasn't ceased speaking about you since your interaction. She notes your kind eyes, despite the deep-seated apprehension you clearly harbor. Ilara's fingers instinctively twisted in her lap, the sheer weight of her accumulated secrets suddenly unbearable. Your mother is perceptive, but she is completely unaware of who I am, and more importantly, who my family is. If she knew the full truth, her reception would be far from welcoming. She understands significantly more than you assume, Domenico said cryptically, his dark eyes scrutinizing her with unnerving persistence. The real question is, what is the daughter of Patrick O'Malley doing serving drinks in a place frequented by her family's most bitter, generational adversaries? Outside the enormous plate glass window, a sudden downpour began, streaking the glass and dissolving the city lights into abstract, blurred colors. The chaos outside mirrored the sudden blurring of reality inside Ilara's mind. Climax and revelation. I am not the person you think, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the restaurant's sophisticated buzz. I severed all ties with that life. I am not, nor have I ever been, involved in my family's illicit enterprises. Domenico's quiet chuckle was surprisingly gentle, yet laced with deep melancholy. No one ever successfully leaves Alara, especially not an O'Malley, especially not the daughter of a man whose animosity toward my family spans generations. Alara felt a total rush of cold as the realization fully hit. He knew everything. My father officially disowned me 2 years ago when I refused to solidify a key alliance by marrying into the rival Sullivan family, she confessed. As far as Patrick O'Malley is concerned, I have effectively ceased to exist. A flicker of something akin to recognition, followed by unexpected respect, crossed Domenico's features. So you opted for total exile over being a mere pawn in their convoluted scheme. Reckless, perhaps, but undeniably brave. Not nearly brave enough, Alara countered. The memory of her frantic flight, leaving only with a backpack, and the immense guilt of abandoning her 2 younger siblings, crushing her. I should have done far more to protect my brother and sister before I left. A solitary muscle twitched in Domenico's strong jawline, the only external sign that her words had resonated with him. Your youngest brother, Thomas, he is secure. My network has been discreetly monitoring his well-being at his university in Vermont. Alara's head snapped up, shock and confusion battling for dominance on her face. You've been tracking Thomas? Why would you? Her question dissolved as a chilling, terrible understanding solidified. You have been using him as a means to locate me. Initially, yes, Domenico admitted, his face devoid of apology. However, the motive shifted 3 months ago. Your father's trusted lieutenant, Sean Flanagan, initiated an alarming move against the boy. We intervened. The dining room suddenly felt impossibly small, the air dangerously thin. Alara struggled to process the devastating new information. Sean would never. He has demonstrated unwavering loyalty to my father for decades. Loyalty has a short lifespan when the opportunity for power arises, Domenico stated, his eyes never leaving hers. There are persistent rumors that your father is losing control. That Flanagan has been quietly arranging deals with the Russian syndicate behind O'Malley's back. Outside, a heavy obsidian-colored armored SUV glided to the curb, its heavily tinted windows opaque. Domenico spared it a fleeting glance before redirecting his full attention to Ilara. Your organization is on the precipice of total collapse, and the resulting catastrophe will engulf everyone remotely connected to it. Ilara felt profoundly ill, her meticulously crafted safe harbor violently shattering around her. Why are you sharing this with me? What is it you want from me, Domenico? Because my mother genuinely likes you, he responded, a faint, non-committal smile touching his lips. And because I require someone intimately familiar with Flanagan's personal habits, his various safe houses, his unique vulnerabilities, someone who essentially grew up observing his methods. The implication hung between them, preposterous and terrifying. You expect me to assist you in dismantling my father's entire organization? I escaped that existence. I have zero knowledge of their current operations. Domenico reached across the table, his fingers lightly grazing hers, a touch that was simultaneously intimidating and unexpectedly comforting. What I actually desire is to avert a large-scale, retaliatory conflict that will inevitably result in a significant number of casualties, including your siblings. Ilara swiftly withdrew her hand, trying to ignore the sudden unwanted electrical current of his touch. You truly expect me to believe you prioritize preventing violence? Your family's public standing suggests otherwise. A reputation is a highly valuable asset, Domenico countered, his voice hardening with finality. But it is rarely a complete account of the truth. My father built his legacy on raw force. I have dedicated the last 5 years to systematically dismantling the most barbaric facets of that legacy. You want me to accept you as the benevolent party in this scenario? Ilara's skepticism was obvious. The restaurant was nearly empty now, leaving them in a charged bubble of uneasy privacy. Domenico's expression became stone. There are no unequivocally good guys in this narrative, Ilara. There are only individuals striving to survive and perhaps to protect those they care about in the process. He glanced at his wrist. His exquisite timepiece likely cost more than her entire college tuition. We have run out of time. Flanagan's surveillance assets have been monitoring this restaurant for the last 20 minutes. That dark sedan positioned directly across the street, he noted, his posture unconcerned despite the extreme danger he was describing. Ilara's blood turned to ice as she discreetly confirmed his observation. The sedan was ideally situated to monitor the main entrance, its occupants completely hidden. How did they track me here? A worried waitress approached their table, placing a dessert menu between them as a superficial cover. There is a man at the bar actively asking questions about you, she whispered urgently to Ilara. He showed your photograph to the bartender. Irish accent, a conspicuous scar above his right eye. Declan, Ilara breathed, recognizing the terrifying description of her father's most ruthless enforcer, a man responsible for cleaning up problems permanently. The tension in Domenico's posture increased, a visible coil of danger, ready to strike. There is a staff-only service corridor accessible through the kitchen that leads to the adjacent building. The staff utilize it for their breaks. Ilara's entire academic future, the critical linguistics scholarship, the simple shared apartment, the hard-won anonymity, flashed before her eyes. You painted a target on your own back the moment you showed my mother genuine human kindness. How many people, after all, speak that precise, rare dialect of Italian Sign Language? He smoothly slid a new, untraceable burner phone across the table. Take this device. My driver will be waiting at the exterior service exit in 5 minutes precisely. He will transport you to a secure location while we determine our next move. Panic flared in Ilara's chest. My apartment, my final exams, I can't simply vanish. People will notice. Your roommate will receive an immediate communication explaining a sudden family emergency. Your professors will be emailed requesting comprehensive extensions, Domenico said, his frightening efficiency simultaneously calming and terrifying. But if you attempt to use the main door, Flanagan's operatives will ensure you disappear permanently. Ilara stared at the phone, the unadulterated reality of her situation crashing down. This was not a negotiation. It was a non-negotiable choice for survival. Why are you willing to risk yourself to assist me? I am nothing to you. Worse, I am an O'Malley. Because I have dedicated 2 months to watching you labor tirelessly, study until the early hours, quietly donate half your tips to a local shelter, and treat my mother with a level of sincere respect most of my own associates fail to offer." His voice softened, almost imperceptibly. "You deserve far better than to become mere collateral damage in Flanagan's savage power grab." Before Alara could formulate a response, Domenico's personal phone vibrated with a text. His expression immediately hardened upon reading it. "They are initiating a move. Go now." Through the kitchen, down the service hall, the very last door on the left. Carlo is waiting in a black SUV. Alara rose on unsteady legs, clutching the phone like a physical lifeline. "And what about you? Won't they identify you when you exit?" "Allow me to manage my own survival," Domenico said, his smile momentarily predatory, a stark reminder of the man he truly was beneath the expensive veneer. "I am accustomed to dealing with threats far more significant than Sean Flanagan's incompetent hired muscle." Epilogue and transformation. 3 weeks later, Alara stood by a vast window in a secluded lakeside retreat, watching the tranquil dawn break over the water. The expansive, rustic cabin was a long-held Corsetti sanctuary, a peaceful hideaway where generations had sought refuge from the pressures of the city. Signora Corsetti sat nearby at a large wooden table, her elegant hands moving with graceful rapidity as she recounted childhood stories of Domenico, his stubborn resilience, his fierce protectiveness, and the unwavering sense of innate justice his father had relentlessly tried to extinguish. "He was always fundamentally different," Signora Corsetti signed, her facial expressions as eloquent as her hands. "My husband sought to instill cruelty, but Domenico consistently found ways to demonstrate mercy without ever appearing weak. It is a precarious balancing act in our world." The burner phone Domenico had provided buzzed on the windowsill, displaying a stark message. "It's time. Be ready in 10. Ilara's stomach twisted with a complex mixture of cold dread and burning anticipation as she showed the message to Signora Corsetti. "He will guarantee your safety," the older woman signed, her eyes gentle yet deeply knowing. "My son perceives in you exactly what I see, a kindred spirit striving to escape a dangerous legacy you never chose." The sound of tires crunching on the gravel driveway announced Domenico's arrival. He entered alone, his typically immaculate appearance slightly disheveled, a fresh cut above his eyebrow, bruised knuckles, but his eyes shone with a grim, focused satisfaction. "We successfully secured the evidence," he stated without preamble, placing a laptop on the table. "Detailed financial transfers, communications with the Russian network, and explicit orders for hits on your brothers. Flanagan has been systematically dismantling your father's command structure from the inside out." Alara stared at the screen, a rising wave of nausea washing over her as she scrolled through the cold, calculated betrayal. "My father extended him absolute trust. They were raised together, shared everything. How could Sean do this?" A specific message on the screen caught Ilara's eye. A conversation between Flanagan and an unknown intermediary concerning the girl who slipped away. Her throat tightened as she realized they were discussing her, planning to use her as ultimate leverage against her father should he ever discover the treachery. "He deployed men to my university," she whispered, pointing to timestamps from months prior. "They were in my literature lecture, staking out my regular coffee shop. They were everywhere, patiently observing, waiting for the optimal moment." Domenico's hand rested on her shoulder, steady, warm, and solid against her trembling body. "But they never reached you. And now we are decisively 10 steps ahead of their entire plan." Signora Corsetti approached with 3 steaming mugs of herbal tea, her movements inherently graceful despite her age, and signed to Alara. "My son rarely brings anyone to this sacred place. It has served as our sanctuary since he was a small boy, the only location his father's darkness never touched. Unchecked power inevitably corrupts even the most sworn loyalties," Domenico stated, his voice devoid of judgment. "However, we have a far more pressing issue. Flanagan knows we possess this damning evidence, and he has requested a final sit-down with your father tonight." Alara looked up sharply, instantly grasping the devastating implications. "It's a deliberate trap. He intends to eliminate my father and subsequently frame you for the murder, thus igniting a retaliatory war that will utterly destroy both families." Precisely, Domenico confirmed, his expression grim as he smoothly pulled a high-caliber pistol, checked the chamber with expert precision, and tucked it into his shoulder holster, which is why we will be there to decisively stop it. Alara's planned protest died on her lips as Signora Corsetti's hands moved in a flurry of pleading signs. You absolutely cannot ask her to confront them. They will execute her instantly for family treachery. I am not asking permission, Alara stated, finding a powerful, inevitable strength in the decision. My brothers and sister are in immediate danger. I chose to run away once before. I absolutely refuse to abandon them again. The new partnership. The sprawling warehouse complex on the city docks was consecrated neutral territory, a grim location where conflicts had been brutally resolved for generations. Alara's heart hammered against her ribs as she sat in the passenger seat of Domenico's vehicle, meticulously observing figures moving within the deep shadows. Your father arrived 10 minutes ago with minimal security detail, Domenico noted, checking his secure phone for updates from his positioned men. Flanagan is already inside with 6 heavily armed men, far more than is appropriate for a genuinely peaceful negotiation. Alara nodded, her mouth dry with fear as she checked her own sidearm, a small, unfamiliar pistol that felt alien in her hand, despite the long-forgotten self-defense lessons of her youth. I need to speak to my father alone first. If I can convince him of Flanagan's complete betrayal, we still have a chance to prevent widespread bloodshed. The strategy was simple, but suicidal. Domenico's crew would secure the exits while Alara personally confronted her father with the digital evidence. Domenico would remain concealed, ready to intervene only if Flanagan made a move, ensuring his presence didn't prematurely escalate the situation. Be extremely careful, Domenico warned as they prepared to separate, his hand resting on her arm for a moment longer than necessary. Your father may reject your testimony, even with hard evidence. Years of blind loyalty are notoriously difficult to overcome. I understand. Alara's voice was steady despite the fear. But he deserves the ultimate opportunity to know the absolute truth, to make his own definitive choice, just as I was forced to when I walked away. The warehouse's interior was vast and dimly illuminated, the air thick with the smell of stale brine and commercial fish. Alara slipped through a barely noticeable side entrance, the flash drive containing Flanagan's treachery clutched tightly in her palm like a vital talisman. Memories flooded back as she navigated the familiar hidden spaces. Summers spent learning the unspoken rules of the family's enterprise. Her father's massive hand guiding hers as he taught her to count illegal shipments. The ability to distinguish an ally from a predator by the subtlest gestures. Now, the cold weight of the gun pressed against her lower back was a stark, physical reminder of the life path she had decisively rejected, and the violence she was now prepared to embrace to protect the remnants of her family. The irony was almost paralyzing. How far she had run, only to circle back to the dark heart of the operation. Armed and ready, she spotted Domenico's men concealed in strategic, darkened alcoves, identifiable only by their statuesque stillness, their constantly watchful eyes, their flawless positioning. Among them was Carlo, Domenico's most trusted lieutenant, who had spent the last 3 weeks tirelessly instructing Alara in advanced defensive tactics, while sharing stories of Domenico's quiet, deliberate transformation of their organization. Through the shadows, Alara caught a heartbreaking glimpse of her younger brother, Xian Jr., positioned as an armed guard near the main entrance, taller than she remembered, his face harder, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. Her heart ached at the man he had been forced to become in her absence. Through a small crack in the office door, she could clearly see her father, noticeably older. The lines on his face deeper, his once powerful frame slightly bowed. Facing him was Sean Flanagan, his expression feigning solicitude, but his eyes radiating cold malice as he poured 2 drinks. Patrick, we've shared an unbreakable bond for too many years for secrets, Flanagan was saying, his voice carrying the recognizable lilt of their shared heritage. The Italians are actively mobilizing against us. This meeting tonight is a deliberate diversion. While they simultaneously target your family, Ilara's breath hitched as she watched Flanagan subtly introduce a foreign substance into one of the glasses while her father momentarily looked away. Without a moment of hesitation, she thrust the door open with a crash. "Don't touch that drink, Da! He is attempting to kill you right now." The room froze. Her father's utter shock, Flanagan's instantaneous consuming rage, the guards instantly reaching for their weapons. "Lily?" Her father's voice cracked with disbelief, using her birth name. "My God, girl, where have you been?" "She is allied with the Corsettis now, Patrick." Flanagan screamed, his hand tearing towards the weapon at his waist. "She's sleeping with the true enemy. Can't you see this is their trap?" Alara stepped decisively forward, sliding the flash drive across the table. "Examine the files, Da. Bank transfers to the Russians. Explicit assassination orders for Thomas and Sion Jr. Communications detailing your murder tonight. He has been systematically betraying your trust for years." What transpired next was a whirlwind of movement and noise. Flanagan lunged for the flash drive. Guards drew their weapons. Her father roared in incandescent rage as he instinctively knocked away the poisoned glass. Then, Domenico was there, materializing from a shadow she hadn't even noticed. His handgun held rock steady, trained directly on Flanagan. "It is finished, Sean," her father said, his voice terrifyingly calm as he examined the evidence provided by one of his own men. When he finally raised his eyes, they contained a chilling, calculated fury Alara instantly recognized from her childhood, a fury that promised absolute retribution. 6 months later, Alara stood in the lush garden of the Corsetti family estate, watching Domenico's mother meticulously tend to her beloved roses. The brutal fallout from that night had irrevocably redrawn the geopolitical lines of the city's underworld. Her father had quietly retired to Ireland, passing the organization's leadership to her eldest, loyal brother with explicit instructions to honor the newly established, fragile peace with the Corsettis. Flanagan had vanished that night, officially. Unofficially, Alara knew that some betrayals demanded only one response in their shared world. She had come to terms with that harsh truth, accepting that survival often required the most difficult, morally ambiguous choices. "You seem exceptionally thoughtful today," Domenico said, appearing beside her with 2 cups of coffee, his free hand finding hers with a new, easy familiarity. The intervening months had forged their impossible alliance into something neither had ever predicted. Respect had blossomed into unwavering trust. Trust had deepened into profound affection. Affection had unexpectedly grown into love. "Just contemplating how utterly different life might have been," Ilara replied, watching Signora Corsetti, who was now patiently instructing a small group of Domenico's younger associates in basic sign language, part of her ongoing campaign to subtly integrate the organization with the broader community. Domenico followed her gaze, his expression softening beautifully. Different, yes, but not necessarily better. Sometimes, the most unforeseen detours lead us precisely to where we were always meant to be. He pressed a lingering kiss to her temple, his lips warm against her skin. "No regrets?" "None," Alara confirmed, turning to face the man who had helped her recover her authentic voice and reconnect with her family, even as they jointly constructed a completely new foundation from the ashes of their violent, shared histories. Together, they were actively authoring a new, unique chapter, one where ancient enemies could evolve into powerful allies, where a complex, subtle language could bridge impossible divides, and where a shy, determined former waitress and a reluctant, principled power broker could finally discover redemption and a future in each other's arms. Call to action, retention-focused. If you found yourself gripped by Alara's impossible choice and Domenico's dangerous world, you're not alone. This story of high stakes, hidden identities, and unexpected alliances is just getting started. I want to know where in the world you're following this complex narrative from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. That feedback is incredibly vital and helps me tailor the next part of this story. If you're invested in finding out what happens next between Alara and Domenico and how their new path unfolds, make sure to hit the like button right now. It's the fastest way to signal that you want more. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next dramatic turn. Your support truly fuels every single video I create.